Hello, this is James Rees from Razorthorn and welcome to another edition of Razorwire. Take two, because people keep calling me. Everything's now turned off and all the notifications are turned off. I had noted that from one of our commentators, sorry about that, about some of the Windows notifications coming through. A little bit on the loud side. We're working through some of the fun and games comes from starting out on podcasting and video blogging and all the stuff that we're doing. So apologies for that, Isaac. A bit of a shout out to you. Thank you for your wonderful comments. So, welcome to an edition of Coffee with Jim with his unstolen new mug. Fantastic, isn't it? So, news. He says, looking over at the other screen. Okay, so Digital Shadows have come out with a bit of research. Came out yesterday. Yep, yesterday. Basically saying initial access brokers are on the rise. Now, initial access brokers have been something that's been going on for quite a while now. But with everything going the way that it's going, the services that they provide are becoming ever more expensive in many respects. So what is an initial access broker? Initial access broker is a malicious individual who gains access to a certain, an organisation's systems in some form or another, either through vulnerabilities. You do occasionally get some disgruntled people who used to work there, putting in backdoors, that kind of thing. It's not a regular thing, I like to point out, but it has been known. And then going on the dark web and selling access to those systems to other malicious actors who then will go in and steal data or install ransomware or do whatever it is they want to do. Yeah, I mean it's been a thing for a long time now, but with everything in the business world going the way that it's going, with more distributed workforce, with more kind of service providers and cloud-based technologies, that kind of thing, it's getting harder to detect when your infrastructure has been broken. I mean, let's look at some of the stuff that we've already reported on. SolarWinds, good example. Obviously, whether or not they were done by an initial access broker who then sold access, who knows? But these people do exist. They sit there and they compromise people, and then they will sell for about, it could be anything really, $7,000 and upwards. It depends on the organisation they breached. Depends what level of access they've got, whether they've got administrative access or whether they've got other types of access or backdoors, compromise, whatever it may well be. But those are definitely on the rise. It's going to get worse before it gets any better. It's like anything in infosec. We are in a constant kind of battle, and it's something that one of the people that we interviewed recently kind of covered, and that will be going live at some point in the near future, that particular interview. But we were discussing the fact that it's becoming increasingly more difficult to handle distributed workforces. Compromises can come in all kinds of ways. And now everything's kind of going cloud-based, everything's going sort of like as a service. It's getting much, much harder to regulate your third parties to ensure that they're not the weak link in your chain. We've discussed before, you're only as secure as your weakest link. Well, if your critical third party or critical software supplier for systems and services within your organisation is the weak link, then there's a good possibility that compromises could come from them. It's important in security to make sure that your baseline extends not just within your own organisation, but to other key organisations that you handle and you deal with. And this is why I always recommend to customers who are looking to procure such services to make sure there's a right to audit in the contract. So there is a right for that organisation to audit the security on a regular basis for organisations that supply them with those services. It's a real important one. Other news out there at the moment, you know, our old friend Ransomware, seemingly Bombardier has been done by a well-known ransomware gang who've released some initial CAD drawings of one of their military aircrafts out on the net. So I'm guessing they've basically said, we've got copies of your data, we've encrypted it, if you want access to it then pay this, you know, within this time scale, or we're just going to release it out on the internet. Similar to what we've seen in the past. There's an alarming amount of ransomware that is affecting very large and key organizations who deal with military, or deal in pharmaceuticals, or deal in, you know, software or services that are procured by large organizations. I think this is because this is where the real money is. I mean, I've seen a few different stats on this in the past, but you know, a lot of people are saying that a good 90 to 95% of people who get attacked by ransomware end up paying that ransom, because it's worse if that information gets out into the big wide world. So ransomware is becoming a premium payment for malicious actors out in the market. And it's getting worse. And as I keep saying, it's going to keep getting worse before it keeps getting better. When you're getting massive payouts from companies who don't want their data paid out onto the, you know, pushed out onto the internet for all to see, all their dirty laundry, then, you know, the prices that you'll be paying for that ransom, the ransoms you'll be paying, will get bigger and bigger and bigger, and the bigger the organisation, the higher the ransom will be. And it very much depends on the dirt that they have, because you can bet your bottom dollar, when somebody gets done by ransomware, the malicious actors who've got copies of that data are going to go through that data just to see what they've got. And if they've got anything particularly spicy, then there's a good chance they'll either release it, or the price for that data to stay private will go dramatically up. It does make me wonder how many legal firms have been done, how many institutions that deal with very sensitive information have been, you know, had these kinds of issues. Fixing these issues can be quite complicated. There's a number of different areas that you can go down in order to make sure that, you know, you're less likely to be compromised. What you've got to remember is malicious actors tend to go for the low-hanging fruit. They tend to go for the ones where the security is very low, especially with, you know, the access brokers, ransomware, you know, similar kind of situations. So you don't really want to be the organisation who doesn't take security seriously. I mean, I'm a security person, and you'll always hear this from me: take your security seriously. So people could say, oh, you're just doing that in order to you know, show that your organisation is key and people should come to you and all the rest of it. That's not really the case. I mean, this is common sense. If you are an organisation who has key assets, key digital assets, key digital services, who provide, you know, products to people where, should that product be compromised, it can have a really detrimental effect on customers, then you need to seriously look at your security. Get a CISO. And if you can't afford a full-time CISO, there's plenty of virtual CISOs out there, you know. I mean, we do it, for instance. And if you're on the really low end of the market, like an SME, then, you know, CISO on retainer is another thing that we do. You know, if you cannot afford, or you really don't want a full-time CISO, there are lots of different options to get the advisory from the people who know what they're doing. So you can ask questions, you can, you know, get the advisories that you need to secure your business. As I've said many, many times, security does not need to be expensive, but it needs to be effective. and don't drink the Kool-Aid from the vendors. Now, I love vendors. They've got a plethora of awesome products, and we've showcased a number of them. We're going to be showcasing more, but we'll talk about that later on. But you know, you need to have a good, solid level of knowledge available to you as an organization on what to do about your security before you go out and procure vendor products to deal with an issue. I have come across plenty of organizations in the past who've paid vast quantities of money for a product thinking it's the silver bullet for dealing with all the security within their organization, only to have very unfortunate events down the line and to find out that they've been paying vast quantities of money for something that only half works, because what they haven't done is they haven't assessed what they actually need. Security vendor products can be very, very, very expensive. GRC tools can be very expensive. You know, security management tools, be it, you know, access management tools, be it endpoint security, all of these things are really cool products and they can really help your business. But you need to get the right products, and you need to build the right security baseline. And it's not just all about products. It is also about the people and the processes as much as the technology. And you'll hear a lot of that in the security community, people, process, technology. And that is generally the way it works. People are key here. Why are people key? Because quite commonly things like ransomware, phishing, that kind of thing, they target individuals whose possibly knowledge of IT or security is comparatively low compared to others. And they rely on those individuals to open up the emails, go click on the links, download the software, panic when pop-ups pop up, to start randomly clicking in order to you know, deal with the situation. Very prevalent. So good training, good security awareness training, what to do. If you think something is dodgy, like an email is suspect, or a link in an email is suspect, then get in touch with your infosec people and find out. They're not going to vilify you or take the piss or whatever, that you don't know what you're doing, or that you've got a concern that may be unfounded. They'd much rather, us infosec people would much rather you check in with us and say, is this okay? Does this look legit, or is this not legit? Because those self-same infosec people do not want their, you know, to have to clear up after a significant security event, and they are coming thick and they are coming fast. We're getting a lot of questions, not necessarily within the comments section. I think a large chunk of that is because people don't want to show that they want help, or they're worried that it will look bad on them or their organisations for asking security questions. And you know what, that's fine, you know, and we'll help you with those, because that's what we do. That's what I do. So a couple of things that I want to advise. You know, if you're an SME, small or medium-sized business, you don't have big budgets, you're not, you know, you haven't got vast quantities of money to spend on security, that's fine. But what you need to do is you need to look objectively at your organisation, look objectively at your key assets, and then talk with somebody who knows something about security, about how to secure those key assets. You could attempt to do it yourself, that's always an option. But it's always better to check it with somebody who knows what they're doing. Tips and tricks. So when we talk about securing assets, map out your secure, you know, map out your critical assets, map out your revenue streams, map out the services that your business rely on, map out, you know, areas where if there was a compromise, what could cause you some kind of PR pain or similar kind of thing going forward. Once you've mapped those out, you now know where you need to focus from a security standpoint. Some quick wins in any organization. Email. So many compromises come through email, and even today. So good first tip, if you're looking for something to help protect you, it will not be 100%. There's nothing here that we can advise that's going to give you 100% security in what you're doing. It's just the nature of the beast, unfortunately. But get yourself a good email security product, something that will filter out the rubbish and the crap and the dodgy attachments, the dodgy links. You know, make sure that there's a component there for phishing as well. Sometimes that's a separate product from the general email security that will protect you from viruses, that kind of thing. But it's well worth spending out the money on, because if you do that, a large chunk of your vectors, for your security vectors, are going to be covered. Okay. Second tip, really, a good endpoint and general network security baseline is also recommended. So definitely endpoint security. We are living in a world at the moment where a lot of us are working from home. As things reopen, there is going to be people working from coffee shops, there's going to be people working from pubs, there's going to be people who, on a really nice sunny day, who doesn't have a garden, might decide they want to go to their grand's who's got a nice big house with a big garden and a baseline internet connection, and sit in the garden and work away. You know, we need to be very mindful of that if you're a business owner, and you need to look at, okay, well, if I can't guarantee where people are working from, because let's face it, you know, if somebody wants to go down for a sneaky pint or a sneaky coffee whilst doing a bit of work, hopefully, obviously they're not going to be in some kind of, you know, online meeting, because that'll become pretty evident if you've got your camera on that you're sat down the pub or you're sat down a coffee shop or you're not where, you know, your home is. That at least the communication that's coming out of that endpoint, the endpoint itself, everything is as secure as it can be. Secure encrypted comms is definitely a big plus. Good endpoint security to pick up anything that might be trying to attack your system directly. We are very much returning to the endpoint in the security world now. Gone a little bit stale. You know, years and years ago, AV and malicious detection software was a real big ticket item, but over the years, it's still been a thing and everybody still has it, but you know, we've got a lot of new vendors out there with a lot of good products that can that do a lot better job at maintaining the endpoint security on the whole than maybe some of the older products have been recently. You know, those have gotten a little bit stale. There's a lot of new stuff out there. Encrypted comms, not just for data transfer, but for video meetings, that kind of thing. You know, unfortunately, the popular products have proven in the past that people can you know, compromise them and jump in. I mean, our own UK government allegedly had some fun and games with a certain product they were using, where people were video bombing, and they had all kinds of people wobbling all kinds of things in front of them, in front of cameras, before they could be removed from those meetings. And we're talking kind of high level meetings as well. You know, maybe people were doing it for a bit of a joke or whatever. You know, who knows how prevalent it's been. Luckily none of my meetings have ever had anybody wobbling their parts in front of them, you know, but then we use kind of like secure meeting formats and solutions to kind of protect those video streams from being compromised or being recorded or whatever. Okay, do not rely on operating system providers is probably the best way for all of your security. They have some great leaps and bounds from previous generations of operating systems. You know who I'm talking about. But they are not security companies. They may provide some good additions to your security baseline, but don't rely on them. Specifically look at specific tooling that will help you secure that environment. We've already mentioned it, user training. I know some of it can be stale. I know some of it can be boring. I mean, I did an interview with Ian Murphy, who's doing a whole plethora of awesome videos that are, yeah, in some cases off the normal format. You know, injects a bit of humour in, but that's the kind of thing you need for the average user. You need to speak in their language. You need to put it in context that they're going to understand. And it's a fun and much easier way of getting through training if you've got something that's fun, rather than something that's just slide after slide of boring stuff that nobody really wants to read. Okay, so seriously think about that. You know, you need to think outside the box when it comes to training. You know, get your security people involved. If you've got security people, get them involved with the staff. If staff have got worries because their credit card details might have been stolen off another site, then, you know, let them ask you questions, or ask your infosec people questions on how to secure it. It's not within the business. It's not a business item that's been countermeasured. But, you know, by helping individuals out with their security concerns, because we all have them in their private lives as much as their work lives, it helps raise that baseline and it helps raise that knowledge level. Policies and procedures, bit of a dirty word for some. Nobody likes to be controlled. Nobody likes to have to do something because they've been told necessarily that they need to do it. But policies and procedures and standards are really, really key for telling your staff what you can do, what you can't do, what you're going to get in trouble for, what you're not going to get in trouble for. And if there's an exception to it, what is that exception and what is the process behind it for getting that sign off that you need to do something that would normally not be allowed. Okay? Good, clear sets of policies are key. As a business owner, to making sure that people conform to the standard security baseline, and if they don't, then there is a recourse for that. You know, get them to sign off on it, at least annually, as part of their security awareness training. Okay? Procedures, have a good set of procedures. Procedures are time-honoured ways of dealing with issues in a single and effective, repeatable manner. I had to stumble there for a minute, you know, not enough coffee. But what we need to make sure of is that your incident response procedures follow the same tactic all the way through. That your risk management procedures help you identify risks in the format that you want them to. There's a million different formats for undertaking kind of risk management and the outputs of risk management. I personally am a big fan of FAIR, the FAIR methodology, because it does both quantitative and qualitative values, which tells you how much it's going to cost, probable, worst case scenario, and then can provide you some rhetoric around why you've assessed that risk to be at that level. Okay, it's a good example. FAIR Institute, go and have a look at it. And then finally, standards. Standards are a little bit more IT centric. You know, if you've got a type of server build that you've got, document it. You know, if you've got new IT people coming in, new techies joining the team, by a good set of standardized documentation, people can read it and understand how you've set up your servers, what to turn on, what to turn off, what services to have running, what not to have running, what applications are baseline that need to be on there, especially security applications. You know, with all of that in place, basically what will happen is you will have a very, very solid security baseline. That doesn't mean you're not going to get compromised, but it means that the chance that you're going to get compromised is quite a bit less. You know, as remember what I said before, malicious actors Always go for the low-hanging fruit. So don't be the low-hanging fruit. And it doesn't matter the size of the company that you are. You could be a massive multinational with massive budgets, shipping stuff left and right all over the world. Or you could be a small mum and pop website designing company who designs websites for, for other small businesses. It doesn't matter. Security can still be done. It's still an important factor of business, because one security event can really ruin your reputation, and it can mean the difference between surviving as a business and thriving or not. There is always a cost, but it doesn't need to be an expensive cost. It just needs to be an effective cost. Okay. This Coffee with Jim has kind of gone into a really random direction. I've gone from discussing stuff that's going on to providing a little bit of advisory there. We're going to be doing a number of different things coming forward. So one of the things that we're going to be doing is Spotlight on Technology. So it's a new format, a new type of video blog, where what we're going to do is we're going to get in key vendors that we've dealt with in the past from different areas of security to kind of showcase what it is they do, how they do it, what's important to them, what their product can give to you. I'm not looking at it from a sales point of view necessarily. It is more of a, what products are out there for us to look at objectively, so we can make sure that we're going to have more interviews for you, and I'm probably going to be running a smaller piece for business owners. If you are a business owner and you are maybe an SME business owner and you just want some very basic advice on infosec, then I will provide it through these video mediums. So drop us an email, get in contact with us, and then we'll happily kind of provide content, add content as and when we get those questions. So watch out for that. This is James Reese for Razorwire at Razorthorn. Thank you ever so much for watching. It's been an absolute pleasure doing these videos. We're still ironing out a few bugs, but all should be going well. Look after yourselves out there, and if you need us, you know where we are. Cheers. Bye.